Hi, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. We are live. We're live. Wave, wave, wave. Hi, everybody. Let us all gather on this Thursday night, March the 11th. There's Tom York's wife again. Radiohead gangbang. Don't think that's ever happened. There's Leon and the guys, all the familiar faces. Hi guys. Hi everybody. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. How is it where you are? Well, in old London town, it's been a bit bright, but it's been darn cold round here today. The promise of spring, we had the windows open. The French windows opened a couple of days ago. They are now well and firmly shut. Hi. Hello, Ed. I'm a fan. Hi from Iran. I love seeing where people are all from. I still think it's amazing. Saudi Arabia. Wow. I still think, yeah. Greetings from Oregon, a beautiful sunny spring day here. I'm glad to hear that. Hello, Sandra. Congrats on being part of that wonderful Three Imagine. What are you talking about? What's going on? What project? Oh, maybe I'll get onto that. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I know that. So it's been a good week round here. I feel like definitely I'm just being easier. I'm trying to be more in my senses, trying to get out of my mind, or that phrase, getting out of my head, but not literally. Sunny northeast. Yeah, just reading The Power of Now, absorbing it. Actually, I read something really interesting from that. I wrote it down. I thought it was really interesting. It kind of made a lot of sense, and maybe I'll share it with you. So this is when Carl Jung, the great Carl Jung, he met up with one of the indigenous American chiefs, and it's a really interesting observation. So this, and I quote this, this tribal elder said, "White people seem to have tense faces," and he quotes, "They are always seeking something. What are they seeking? The whites always want something. They are always uneasy and restless. We don't know what they want. We think they are mad." Yup. How much did that resonate with me? Personally, I'm guilty of that. So yes, that definitely resonated. Uneasy, restless, always looking for something, trying to find happiness in the latest thing that you've done, or the latest thing you've taken, or the latest person you're with, all that stuff. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, I also posted. It was I think it was a good week for. I'm going to pull somebody in in a sec, but I just wanted to mention about three things that I had written down. One was International Women's Day, which I posted on, and I didn't put any words to it because I was having one of those I was one of those struggle days, and I just couldn't find the appropriate words to say how important I felt about this and about honouring women all over the world. And I couldn't put into words without sounding trite, I felt. I think it's, I've said it before, I come from I come from a family that, it hasn't been a patriarchy in the family, although no, that's not necessarily my parents who split up might disagree, and I think that's probably right. But what I will say is, I really fundamentally believe that one of the roots that we get to a planet and a world that is compassionate, kind, sustainable is we need equality in the sexes. We need more representation from women. We need women as our political leaders. Look at Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. We need a balance. I mean, and because white men, or any men, quite frankly, of a certain generation, are patriarchal, have a certain outlook, and that outlook is not helping the planet. I haven't expressed it very well, but some of you, I'll just think it's a very simple thing, seemingly, but it's a very, very fundamental problem with the world, that we are not balanced between the feminine and the masculine. It's a massive thing. And yes. So what else? Man, that's not words, that's a literal... Oh, thank you. I thought you were having a go at me. I stopped. The second thing, did anyone watch Harry and Meghan? Did anyone enjoy watching that? I thought it was very interesting. I will preface this by saying I'm not a royalist. I'm not anti-royalist, but I have problems with hereditary peerage, hereditary titles, kind of the class system that things like the monarchy and the aristocracy underpin. I have great problems with that. However, having watched The Crown, I, funnily enough, have a lot of sympathy for the Queen, and I think she does, within her thing, her duty, and I know you can't judge it on a TV programme, but it made me realise, in a way, what a sense of duty she has. So I've got no problems with the people. I think it's just the institution, but I thought it was really interesting to watch two young, sensitive human beings speaking their truth about their struggle with an institution which is old and obviously very challenging. So I thought that was interesting. I thought it was kind of symptomatic of the times as well. It seems that in our country it's divided against, the younger generation seem very sympathetic to Harry and Meghan, as I am. I completely am. And the older generation is sort of, well, they knew what they were getting into, I mean, just stick it out. And I think what's happening now is the younger generation are more sensitive, and I think that's a positive. They're no longer willing to say, a lot of my generation or whatever put up with a lot of shit, and we didn't speak our truths at the time. And the younger generation is saying, no, this no longer resonates with me. So I thought that was interesting. Harry and Meghan, I enjoyed that. Big love from Brazil. And the other thing was, some of you have seen the post, I've reworked, I was asked to do, just before Christmas, whether I'd be willing to rework Paul McCartney's track Sliding off his McCartney 3 album that came out before Christmas. You can't turn Paul McCartney down. I mean, I've never done anything like this, but I was in the studio with Paul, not with Paul McCartney, with the other Paul, Paul Epworth, and he and we were like, we heard the track and it was like, yeah, this is good. I mean, so we've done a version, we've done something to it, and someone said Tom turned him down. I don't think that's true. I don't know. I don't think Tom would be like that. So yeah, it was great, and it was really good fun. It was nice, but we haven't been able to get in the studio, so we had like a day and a half to do something, and it was nice during lockdown to be able to do it and to do something and to work on something that felt really good, and it was fun. And one of the nicest things about it was Paul actually rang me a couple of weeks ago, just as I was going to bed, and to say thank you. We had a really great old natter, and it was really lovely. It was really, really cool. He's obviously a genius musician, but the thing that you get from him is he's just a genuine, lovely, lovely, warm soul. And I've been fortunate to meet a lot of my heroes, and some of them can be, quite uneasy and can be quite hard to, but he was just such a lovely guy. Big family man. We talked a lot about countryside and nature and our love for it. I was in Wales. So yeah, I hope you get to hear it, enjoy it. And yeah, there's all sorts of stuff going on here. A wonderful man. Yeah, he's a flipping, I mean, it's amazing. It's funny because obviously the Beatles for me, like probably for a lot of you, they were the first band that I got into. And I remember about age 7 or 8, and my dad gave me Sergeant Pepper's and he said, listen up, son. And I didn't like Sergeant Pepper's. It's like, oh, it was a bit too much for my little brain. But I loved all the early stuff. I loved all the Can't Buy Me Love, Please Please Me, and all the rock and roll stuff when they did all their covers like Kansas City and Roll Over Bay. I loved that stuff. And then, within a year I'm into Strawberry Fields and, you've been through the Rubber Soul stuff. But it was nice because I said it's funny because like, I think 1980, he had on McCartney 2, he had a song called Coming Up that came out, and that is a wicked track. And I bought that at the time on 45. And I said it's just one of those really lovely things that happens in life that, I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky to have those kind of, those lovely connections that those things that come about in a roundabout way. So, yeah. People think he just wrote away throwaway pop songs and John was a serious muso. Well, yeah, that's a lot of people think that, but that's a load of bollocks. I mean, I can think, I think I could give you, I don't even have to start naming all the tracks that are extraordinary. I think when you're in a band and when you know about, and people know this, whether it's a great netball team or a great basketball team or a great hockey team or a great football team or whatever it's, soccer team, when it's a group of people, if you want to have a really strong band of people, you have your yin and your yang. You have your warmer elements, you have your caustic elements, and these all add to it. And we come from an era, and certainly I come from that school of like, if you're a bit fucking mean and you're a bit kind of, being cool with people and not very nice, that's cool. And the people who are kind and nice and engaged with people, that's not cool. And I, definitely when I was in my teens, I subscribed to that. Although I hope I was always nice, but I was, I never thought I was cool or anything. Never, I thought other people were cool, but I realised that that's bollocks. And it was getting to know my really lovely, talented friend, Garth Jennings, who's a filmmaker and did and he's one of the loveliest people you could ever meet, and he's super talented. And I realised that that's just a, that's just a myth. That's just a, that the suffering artist somehow is the greater artist. I think that's absolute bollocks. Look at people like David Hockney. Of course there are always examples to back that up, but I'm not having any of that. I think it's a narrative that's outmoded. And I think Paul McCartney is a superlative artist, and of course, like any people during their careers, he has his really strong periods, and he has his less strong periods, and people have tend to laid into him when he's when they've had his less strong periods or music or whatever, or they didn't like the fact that he was a family guy and he was happy. I think that's absolute bollocks, so I'm not having that. Hello from Russia. I'm just gonna Ed and Paul, best duo. I'd love to play with him, man. I'd love to play some music with him. He's the most incredible musician as well. This is the other thing. If he was only remembered, if he didn't write songs or sing, if he was only remembered for his bass playing, he would be, him and the 60s, him and James Jamerson of the Funk Brothers, Motown bass player would be my favourite bass player. He's an incredible musician. He's also an incredible drummer. Don't forget, he also was an incredible guitarist. I mean, the guitar solo on Taxman, George Harrison's Taxman, that's Macca. You know, the guitar riff on Paperback Writer, down, incredible. That's him. Drumming on Back in the USSR, that's him. As well as that voice. So, as well as those songs, Yesterday, all that stuff. Blackbird, you know, Helter Skelter. I mean, all this stuff. Let It Be. Hey Jude, for fuck's sake. That's the guy that wrote Hey Jude, that every time I go and see Brentford play, they come on and everybody's singing it. You know, I mean, never, ever, any moment anybody says, oh, John Lennon was a talent in the band. John Lennon was seriously talented. Paul McCartney was seriously talented. George Harrison was seriously talented. Ringo Starr, seriously talented. They were an amazing band. And they bounced off one another. I haven't been this animated for weeks. I'm obviously getting better. All right. Yeah. I know a little bit about bands and the way that bands work and the balance between different characters. And the narratives that get played out in public, you know, aren't necessarily true, because nobody sees what goes on in when it's just the 4 or 5 people without the world thinking what goes on. It goes a lot deeper, and a lot of it actually is a lot more straightforward and not deep. A lot of it's just old friends in a room having a laugh. All right. Okay, I should pull someone in. Otherwise, I'll be ranting away on my own. But I fucking love Paul McCartney. I love John Lennon. I love George Harrison. I love Ringo Starr. I don't have any favourites. And they're all fucking brilliant. Okay? Sorry. I've sworn again. All right. I don't know how to do this anymore. I've lost my... No, these are old... No, here we go. Requests. See you all. We need somebody. Okay, gosh, there's so many. All right. There's a beach here. This looks good. I think after International Women's Day, we need to speak to a sister. Who have we got today? Hello. Carleia. Maybe. Hi. Is that Carla? Hello, Carla. Are you there?
Hi.
Hi, is this all right? Am I intruding or do you want to go? Is this too much?
No, it's...
Is it okay? I like the elephant. Okay, okay, fair enough. Carla left. That's fine. I don't want to, that's cool because I know these things can be a little bit. Okay. Okay, Sylvia. Let's try Sylvia. A sister. Sylvia. Hello, Chris. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Sylvia.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
How are you?
I'm making toast and I was like, this can't be.
Oh, wicked. Do you want to finish making the toast?
No, I do not.
Come on.
I want to talk to you.
Okay, what are you going to have on your toast?
It's delicious, actually. Smashed avocados, because I'm in California, with a little bit of nutritional yeast and a little bit of like salt.
Do you know what? Funnily enough, I don't normally have breakfast because I just don't. I don't need a meal at that time. But I had avocado on toast for breakfast as well.
Right.
It's such a great. It's so good, isn't it?
It's delicious. Actually, it's become the hippie thing, I guess, or the hipster thing. But I've been eating avocado toast since the 80s. So.
Oh, come on! Look at it. That's great. So how's your? So what time? So it must be what? It's like 11 in the morning.
It's noon. Yeah.
Noon. Yeah. Noon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it? Whereabouts are you in California?
I'm in San Diego. It
Nice.
just finished raining, so it's one of those beautifully gorgeous, crisp days here.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how's life? I mean, what's it like? Lockdown's still going on?
It's still pretty severe here in California, which
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with.
Yeah.
I'm thankfully in a very privileged position. I get to work from home.
Yeah.
I get to ditch work for a little bit to talk to you. But I feel like things are starting to turn around. Both
Yeah.
of my parents, they're in their 70s, and so they've both been vaccinated.
Great.
So I'm really grateful for that. Yeah.
That's so good, isn't it? Do you feel like, because I definitely feels like here that I mean, we're not out of it by any means,
No.
but I think that all the stats so far on the vaccine has had an enormous effect. And the stats of the vaccine, yeah, had an enormous effect on the virus. And like my parents have both had theirs. And so it's kind of like you can breathe easier because it's definitely, you know, it's definitely working, which is good.
Yeah, I feel like as soon as my parents are safe, relatively safe, and we'll continue to do the easy thing for us, which is to wear a mask, wash our hands, keep our distance. So yeah, the one thing I am missing, of course, are concerts. I actually dreamt last night that that I was in a concert watching you in Rio, so that must have brought me.
No way, really?
Yeah.
I
and you asked the audience. You asked the audience who here is from Rio, but nobody raised their hand, and I don't know what it was because we were in Rio, but that didn't make any sense. So
it's funny. I have like literally every night I have some kind of musical dream where it's a band dream or something, or there's something, or there's and sometimes they're kind of they're a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
And then other times they're like really weird. Like my oldest friend Nick, who I've been friends with since we were at kindergarten, we were at school all the way through, and he's now he does a very he's a barrister. He's like a proper barrister. He's like in this country he's QC, which is Queen's Counsel. It's very and I had this weird dream that he had one of my foot pedals, and I was like, why have you got my eventide delay time factor foot pedal? What are you doing with that? And he said, I'm just trying to get some sounds out of it. And I said, you just stick to the law thing. And it was just very random. But yeah, I often, and it's funny, I have dreams sometimes about gigs in really weird places, like in the middle of a jungle. There you go, your toast. Do you want to get it?
Nope, I'm good. It's actually a little floppy, so it needs more time.
I won't keep you for long, Sylvia, because I know that you know. So
I mean, if you need to talk to other people, I completely understand.
No, it's lovely. It's so yeah. I mean, do you find because in London in the last week that I've noticed at the track, because our kids went back to school on Monday, which is a big deal, which is great actually, and it feels like, I mean, people are walking around masked, but there's so much more traffic, and it feels like we're getting back to a kind of I wouldn't say normal, because it will never be normal again, but some kind of it's at least the streets aren't deserted.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not going to be judgy. There are a lot of people out there doing like what I think are unsafe things, but who knows? Maybe they've been vaccinated. You know, so I'm not going to be judgy. I'm just going to try to do what's best for, what's best for me and my family.
And I think, do you know what? I think I think that what you said there about not being judgmental is so important, because, I know that with the vaccine thing, I certainly have had my concerns about, the trials, about how, what might be the long-term effect of the vaccinations. However, having had COVID, having had the coronavirus, the long tail on it is quite severe. I still feel like I'm kind of getting over it, and so I don't want to get that. I don't want to get it again. I don't want to get a variant. So, but here's my thing: is I do understand people who are worried, who are concerned, and I think we have to be really careful, because the narrative that I really get frustrated about is, and I think it's something that's typical of modern times, is it becomes very black and white. It becomes like, and maybe that's not the appropriate words to use, but it comes very divided there too. And, it's either this or that. So if you question the vaccines, or you have some concerns, you're suddenly an anti-vaxxer.
Right.
And from that side of point of view, if you if you do decide to have the vaccine and go with it, from that point of view, you somehow swallowed the blue pill and you've like surrendered to the state. And I think these are really, really, I think that just these narratives are so alienating and so unhelpful because like everything in life, everything is so nuanced. It's like, it isn't binary. It's nuanced, and we all have to, you know, most of us are trying to do the best that we can and trying to judge that. And, you know, and the people that, you know, I've got a lot of friends, I've got a lot of, you know, most people I know are pro-vaccine, but I've got a lot of friends who are very, very skeptical. And I talk to them about it, and they like it because, you know, they can't have a lot of conversations with people because people in their family think you're mad, you're just an anti-vaxxer. But they've got grounds, and some of them are, you know, they're suspicious of pharmaceutical companies. You know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying for this thing, but you know, pharmaceutical companies make a lot of money, and the way they make a lot of money is selling drugs, and it, you know, so I just think it's like all I try to do is I think it's important to be discerning, but also to not be judgmental, as you said. I think it's so important, and because there are people, as long as you don't judge, you know, when the other camp starts judging you or say you know, or being condescending, or you know, or saying you're somehow immoral or putting society at risk, I think all that stuff is just, you know, it's too reactionary.
Yeah.
And we need level heads.
Yeah, no, especially since we all come from different perspectives. My sister-in-law, my brother's wife, won't get vaccinated, and her nephew won't. He hasn't been vaccinated. He's about 6 years old. He hasn't been vaccinated at all.
Yeah.
However, you know, with what has been done historically to people of color, you know, certain groups, in terms of just the research that people did, there's a lot, like they have a lot of concerns. And so it's difficult to discuss because I'm very much pro-vaccines in terms of, you know, what's right for my, you know, what's right for me and my family. But we do have to have these discussions so that we could see each other's viewpoints and possibly come to some common understanding.
Yeah, and what we all have to understand is very few of us know about, we don't understand about this virus. None of us really have no one has the full facts. That data's coming out at the moment. This is classic. Somebody just put on the comments, they said, anti-vaxxers are a disease. And I just think that's just, you know, whoever writes that, you know, you show no empathy or compassion for people who are genuinely worried and genuinely trying to do the right thing. You might disagree with them, but they have their reasons, you know, just as anti-vaxxers who think that, you know, people who take the vaccine are just following government, you know, being sheep following the herd. Don't stop judging people. It's really, really, I read your comment and you said anti-vaxxers are a disease. Just think about those words. Think about what you're saying, how divisive that is. You know, if you think that, don't say that. You know, you're falling into this narrative at the moment, and so many people are doing it. You're just adding more fuel to the fire. We need to talk about these things. And there was a brilliant article in The Observer about 6 weeks ago by a columnist called Kenan Malik. And he said, with people who are suspicious of vaccines, the way to do them is not to berate them, it's to build up trust, you know? And that's what we need to do. So I'm kind of like, I understand. I'm that classic thing. I understand both arguments, and you know, look at the facts. But but I will also respect people who decide that it's not for them. You know,
it's very similar to how I sometimes have a perspective, and because I'm a woman and because I'm a woman of color. I don't want necessarily people to dismiss my point of view. You know, when men, especially, I'm a concert photographer, which, by the way, if you guys ever need a concert photographer, please call me up. But whenever I'm in the concert, you know, and I'm in the photo pit, and you know, people, they're like, oh, you know, they're like, oh, that's a fancy camera. do you know how to work that? It's
No.
they assume things that, like, I can take very good pictures. I'm a very good photographer. And just because you're a woman, you're assuming that I can't. So similarly to that, my perspective as a woman of color, as coming from a working class background, I don't want any of my opinions to be dismissed simply because of those three facts that are very obvious, I think, to people. I can't pretend that I'm not a woman. I can't pretend that I'm not of color. And so that's why I feel like I need to listen to other people as well, whether it be about vaccines or, other opinions that they have.
Were you aware of, was there a moment, because obviously when you're a child, you're sort of, maybe you're in a bubble to that, right? You don't feel it. Do you have a moment in your life when you suddenly became aware of, like, somebody not respecting you because you're a girl or you're a woman of color? Was there, or is it something that you felt societally it was in the air, it was everywhere? Was it?
That's such an interesting question, Ned, and I feel like I'm getting a little emotional because I actually came to it fairly late. That realization came to me fairly late in life. I want to say maybe well into my 20s, maybe even 30s, mostly because I grew up here. My parents, I actually was born in Mexico, but I grew up here. My parents grew up in Mexico. And so you come here and you're told that you can be anything you want in the United States. You can be president of the United States. You can, run your own business, make $1 million. And that was something that I believed truly was available to me and to everybody else, as long as you worked hard enough, et cetera, et cetera. Even in college, I did well in college. I went to a good college. And so I feel like those obstacles, I feel, were not really present to me, but the microaggressions were. I remember my English teacher in 10th grade. Her name was Mrs. LeBay. And she called me up to her podium one day and she said, you speak very well for someone like you.
Fucking hell.
And so I was like, oh gosh, gee, thank you. And I went back to my
thank
seat.
you.
Thank you. And I went back to my seat and I picked up my pencil and I kept on writing. And it wasn't until like 10 years later that I was like, oh, holy cow, what, excuse me? Or even just the other day, I was taking my dog, he may start barking, but I was taking my dog to the vet. And they said, he had, he's in great shape. You must live in a safe neighborhood. I wasn't expecting that. And I was like, excuse me, what do you mean I must live in a good, safe neighborhood? Are you assuming that I live in a bad neighborhood? Like, I'm not understanding that comment. And it's those microaggressions that I'm now more 100% aware of. Back when I was 15, back when I was 25, I don't think they landed in my brain because I still had that optimism, like, I don't know what you mean. I'm going to make it. I'm going to be president of the United States one day.
Well, it's that classic thing, isn't it? When it's all around, it's everywhere, and it's the norm. And you think, well, that's. I imagine, testimony, or I've heard a lot of women say, well, that's just what it was like. Right. That's what we put up with. That was the world, and it wasn't like the world was wrong. It's just like, well, that's just how it was. And I think, well done.
Actually, you were just talking about the Beatles. I'm a huge Beatles fan.
Come on, what's your favorite album? Your favorite Beatles album?
Okay, so as a kid, of course, I loved the early Beatles because they were fun and they were cute.
Me
Sgt.
too.
Pepper's, of course, blew my mind. But I have to say, Abbey Road and Let It Be, oh my God, what a way to go out. I mean, what a way to go out.
Did you hear the Let It Be when they so I'm not a fan of Let It Be, the Phil Spector stuff. But when they did Let It Be, they did, what's it called?
The Naked? Not
Naked.
Unmasked, Naked.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God, the version of Across the Universe on that, it made me cry. It's so beautiful. They stripped it all away, and it's obviously got the Indian George influence. I think it's got the tambura through it, something. Right. It's extraordinary. So Abbey Road is just, the last thing that they recorded, not the last release, but it's amazing, isn't it? And it's sonically incredible.
Isn't it like 12 minutes of just like pow, 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 like in your gut and your shins? It just brings you to your knees.
Yeah, and the technical thing that they did there, it brought in that album brought in that 70s, because if the fidelity, the sound of it is like a 70s record. It's suddenly big and beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I was like, so when I was younger, I had the greatest hits albums, the red one and the blue one, the 62 to 66 and 67 to 70. So I loved side A on the red one from about age day, and then side 2, which is Rubber Soul, and which is Ticket to Ride, Norwegian Wood, and we had an au pair. We had a French au pair who I was age 7. I had a huge crush on, funny enough.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, and it was great because I could go into her room at 7 o'clock in the morning, and she was obsessed with the Beatles, and she used to put on Revolver, and I used to stare at that cover with all the hair and hear this coming out the little record player, and I was 7, and she was just walking around in her nightie or whatever, being really lovely to me, and I'm in heaven. I'm listening to the Beatles with this. I know, terrible, really, but not terrible. That's life. That was lovely. It wasn't terrible. I'm not going to be it was cute.
You know who I had a crush on when I was about 7?
Who?
Tom Selleck.
Oh, really? What, with the tash?
With the ginormous, but like 80% of the people back there, 80% of the men back there probably had like that giant mustache. But I remember him being probably, well, my first crush was probably like Paul McCartney, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when I was 7, I probably had a crush on Tom Selleck. Yeah.
Well, he was the kind of Tom Selleck, right? He was the quintessential kind of good guy, big guy, tash, good looking, nice car, charming, funny, Hawaii, good fit body, all the stuff. My first, I'm really predictable because my first real, this is quite interesting. I'll give you 3 or 4. So I remember going to see Grease in 1978. Olivia Newton-John, come on!
Of course.
I was just like, oh my God. And then there was this film. It was a really bad film. My sister was really into horse riding, and there was this film called International Velvet with Tatum O'Neal as a teenager.
Oh yeah.
And she married John McEnroe, and I remember like these weird feelings. And then the last one, of course, was like about age 11. I remember watching Some Like It Hot, Marilyn Monroe. I mean, I'm really predictable. There's no, but yeah, they were the 3.
What about Brooke Shields? Did you ever have a crush on Brooke Shields?
No, she was too sort of, I don't know, too sort of, I'm going to say clean cut, but too sort of like, almost, I don't know, yeah, I don't know. No, not Brooke Shields. I'm not going to explain why, or I don't know why.
I'm wondering, I was going to say if she was like super supreme, whereas like Tatum O'Neal was obviously beautiful, but like in a next door girl kind of way, kind of.
Yeah, well, for me, the big one as well, when The Breakfast Club came out, Ali Sheedy with the hair. Yeah. I mean, yeah, totally. Because like most of the guys,
Molly Ringwald.
I know, because most of the guys are like, but I got to that age like, no, and not when she had the makeup on, when her hair was all like that and all the dandruff was that was.
I had that look actually probably for about 6 months, but then I had to get a job and cut my hair.
It's a strong look. It's a strong look. So it's
actually back. I know a bunch of teenagers because I work with teens, and that look is back.
Is it really? It's funny. It's like that film. My daughter's really into she loved The Breakfast Club, but it's so of the 80s, right? There's some really dodgy stuff in it that, and again, it was kind of, I guess it was accepted because that was kind of normal stuff, right?
Actually, all of the John Hughes stuff, and I'm a big fan, but you're right. You go back and you watch 16 Candles.
I don't know that one.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so he was a huge crush. The main guy from 16 Candles. His name is in the movie. His name is Jake Ryan. Holy cow! Just
Really?
absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I wonder where he is now. But that is also a very, you look at it now and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I used to love this movie and I've watched it 150 times.
Did you
It's really bad.
did you have posters on your wall of your crushes?
I did. I
You
did.
did.
They were all rock stars.
Oh, who was the?
Um,
Come on, who was on there?
okay, so my number one love
Yeah,
after Paul McCartney and Tom Selleck, of course,
yeah.
was Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
I mean, you
But I
know.
mean, you didn't like John. I mean, all the girls around our way liked John Taylor.
No, I like Simon. I was into blondes back then. I don't know why. I'm not now, but I liked him, and then later I guess I liked Brad Pitt, and then after
Yeah,
that, I think Brad Pitt was my last blonde that I
yeah.
liked.
The last one on the
Yeah,
wall.
yeah. But truthfully, if I would have been what 10 years older, I guess it could have been very much Radiohead, and you guys would have been on my wall. But back then, I think I was like properly an adult and not. I didn't put. I put Picasso on the wall, like the Picasso print that you got
Yeah,
like
you
at
get to
Bed Bath and Beyond or whatever.
you get to the age, don't you, when you suddenly it's like all those things become deeply uncool, and you suddenly start putting your Egon Schindler prints or your
Right.
postcards and your Matisses and your all that stuff, and it's really fun watching the kids go through. Sal is 17 and Una's 15. And Una's definitely on that big thing of making her room like a real crib, a real den, and
I love
all the
it.
posters and all the things on there and her friends. It's really cute. And Sal's sort of like getting a bit more minimal. I got him a Kendrick for his birthday. We got him a Kendrick Lamar print, and it's a really cool print. And getting it framed, so it's a little bit more kind of like a little bit less obvious, but it's
I
nice.
love it. The kids need to have their own space, and that's
Yeah,
really like the only place they can express themselves. I
yeah.
have two kids as well, and they have soccer players on their walls.
Oh, really?
So
How old are
yeah,
your kids?
they are 16 and 14.
Oh, wow. So who've they got?
Yeah.
Who are the soccer players? Who do they support?
Well, so they've been into soccer forever, but Messi, of course. So they're Barca fans, and then my dad,
Yeah.
who was a big Pele fan.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
gifted them to Pele. We were never Maradona fans. My
Why?
dad,
Why was that?
oh well, my dad, he loved the Brazilian teams,
Yeah.
and so I watched all the soccer games with him as I was growing up in the '80s. And he would always, my dad would always trash talk Maradona. He's like, oh, he's such a dirty player. That's a dirty move. You have to play with class like Pele. So I guess
Yeah.
I've had that instilled in me. Yeah.
Maradona was a very divisive character, obviously, but it's interesting. I've got I've got a poster of, I bought this original poster of Pele and it's signed by him, bought it about 15 years ago, and we've got it hung up outside Sal's door. And it's beautiful. And I grew up with that whole thing in the Brazilian team, players like Socrates and Zico but I really like the Argentinian team as well, because Diego was a street fighter, but an incredible. He was troubled, but he was a genius little street fighter footballer. Very, and I guess typical of somebody who'd come from, the slums of Buenos Aires and
Sure.
what he represented. But yeah, it's really nice because I think one of the things that the Hispanic community have done for America, I love coming to America. I've come to America a lot, and having family in Texas, obviously, I loved San Antonio, particularly going to San Antonio in the 80s, because it was, it's Hispanic, really, essentially.
Right.
And I love the fact that, we've been in America for World Cups, and you want to be. World Cups are very emotional times. They're the soccer World Cups are hugely emotional. It's always, on my first one I remember was 1978 in Argentina, and England didn't qualify, but Scotland did, and I supported Scotland, and I loved Scotland,
Yeah.
and Argentina won it that year. But every 4 years, and that summer it's all about the World Cup, and it still
Yeah.
is.
Mm-hmm.
And and when we were sort of in the 90s, I remember 98, the World Cup that was in France. We had about 2 weeks touring in the middle of the flipping World Cup.
Amazing.
And we're in America, and it was so hard to find games on television. I'd end up walking like a mile, and suddenly you'd come to a bar, or you'd hear about a bar, and there'd be lots of people inside it. But the difference was when we were there in 2018 for the World Cup, it was everywhere, and it was amazing. And I think it's just grown as a sport. But I think so much of it is to do with the Hispanic. But here's also the other thing. You will know this better than mine. My cousins. Three girl cousins, they all played Little League, and for the women's game, soccer was huge. All the girls played soccer, I think, and that's why the women are world champions at them. So I think the women's game and the women and the Hispanic communities and the others that have arrived in, the Italians obviously, but it's just it's great to see America getting soccer, and they're becoming really good. I mean, I think maybe in my lifetime, we'll see an American men's team match the women's team and maybe win the World Cup.
That's interesting. I really wonder. But I'm also a big supporter of the underdog when it comes to soccer. But overall, a big supporter of the underdog. But in soccer, I mean, obviously the last World Cup, Mexico came so close. We were so proud of them, and they didn't make it all the way. But it's great to have wonderful pride.
Oh, we love Mexico, and I really, that's right. In 2014, I was actually I was a week down in Mexico. Because I was doing this guitar with Fender, and it was being built down in the factory in Mexico, and I was down in there, and I just, you just want Mexico to win a World Cup. And it's held two of the most memorable World Cups, 1970 and 1986. I mean, they are really, really memorable. That 1970, that Brazilian team, and England got to the same. Anyway, I'm probably boring a lot of people here, but or we are.
Well, I could talk about anything with you. I absolutely adore the band. You were actually my penultimate concert of 2020 in Los Angeles. And I actually just saw one of my concert buddies on the chat. She's on there. So shout out to Linda.
Linda.
But we were there.
Did you come to the Hollywood Forever Hollywood thing?
I did, yeah. Wow. So I drove up to San Diego, from San Diego, but I'll do that. I mean, I will drive miles and miles and hours.
Do you know what? I was so nervous for all those shows. I was like, they were like out of body experiences. It was like a real, and it was funny because it was exactly a year ago that we did our last show, and we'd done this. So we did those shows in America, then we came over and did one in London for the Six Music Roundhouse, and there was suddenly a moment when we played Brazil, because none of you had heard the album, so it was all kind of, you'd heard Brazil and maybe one other track, and so it was kind of quite a weird environment. And then I remember we played the London show, and the last song we played was Brazil, and suddenly the room erupted, and it's like, oh, they got it. And I thought, okay, this is how it can be. Because, when you tour, when you do something, it's very different from being the guy who plays on the stage right, playing guitar and doing all that, to being the guy in the center. And, we took a long time. I mean, before, I think about 1992, we as the band, Radiohead, did probably about 120 shows in Britain alone with no one there. I mean, we opened for everybody. So it was a chance for all of us, but particularly Tom, to just become relaxed on stage, just for it to feel normal. And like anything, it's like anything in life, isn't it? The more you do it, the more so. And it was a year ago in Paris that was our last show, and actually that's where I think I got the virus. In fact, everybody did. It was like this melting pot. Everybody in this room, we were stuck inside for 12 hours, and it was like a coronavirus petri dish.
That's awful.
It was horrible.
But hey, that's how you guys got your 10,000 hours as a band.
Exactly, and that's what you have to do, and that's exactly it. So, I'm going to have to get back up on that horse.
Well, when you're ready, when it
but
feels
you know
right.
what? Yeah, I think it'll be different this time, because I think it's I mean, you know, a lot's happened to all of us in a year, right? A lot has happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all been through, and some of us, you know, all the frontline workers and all the nurses and all the doctors and all the posties, all those have had it really tough. But nobody's been untouched by this virus. So we've all been touched by it. So hopefully, you know,
Yeah.
you know,
I feel like it's going to take at least a year to feel normal. Like when things are back to normal, whatever that normal is, it's going to take a year to be like, oh, can I hug you? Can I shake your hand?
yeah,
Is it okay to stand this close to you? But I'm sure it'll happen. As a matter of fact, I was just reading a book for fun, and it takes place in just before World War II and then after World War II. And the protagonist, the young woman, talks about her life as a single young woman before World War II, and then those horrible years, and she's in New York, horrible years where all the men went away, her brother went away. She was a seamstress, so there were no buttons, there was no thread, no sugar for her, coffee, etc. But she was telling the story as, I think, a woman in her 60s or 70s, like looking back, and obviously life continued. So whatever that life is after all of this is over, well, I guess that's something to look forward to.
yeah, I agree. And I think, I mean, I don't know if, yeah, who knows what we'll go back to, but I think I was talking to one of my managers today, and what we can be certain is when people feel right and concerts feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, how much are we going to appreciate that?
Yeah.
It's going to be, here's the other thing, and I was saying, we were talking about this. Maybe people will be kinder to one another. Maybe, I really hope so. I hope that if there's, of course there are going to be, it's like that line, there are going to be people who aren't, who may be more extreme, but the rest of us, it'd be so nice to think that, that there's we all appreciate each other that much more because we've all missed one another, right?
Yeah. And I hope we get back to shows. I'm all for enjoying live music from a box, off the side of the stage,
Yeah.
like at some Royal Albert Concert Hall or whatnot. But I really want to be like pressed up against all the fans, shouting out all the words and dancing, and really feeling like the humanity of live music, what it brings to us. As a matter of fact, maybe this is too much information, but yesterday I was working out in the garage, like doing squats and weights and push-ups.
Great.
And I was watching the Glastonbury show, you guys, from 2017, because that is actually a way for me to work out longer. I just have to watch, I just put on the show and I just watch it for like an hour and a half, and that's my workout. Yeah. But the fans, I mean, obviously you guys were amazing. It's probably one of the best shows I've ever seen. But the fans in that crowd were amazing. Everybody was singing, and you could see like the emotion and being present for you, for the band, for the music, and for the people around them. So I love watching that video over and over again, and I guess that's how I do my push-ups. Cool.
No, and I agree. You know what? I still try and do this. I remember with gigs and stuff like that, when I was a teenager and stuff, I never wanted to be in the seats. I always wanted to be at the front, and I still do. And actually I went to, and sometimes it's not so easy because partly, not because I get recognized or whatever, it's partly because I'm so frigging tall. I always seem to get in people's way. So I'm really aware of it. But I am, was about 2 years ago, went to see one of my favorite bands, and I love them as people, Foals, who are from Oxford. And Sal, my son, is he's like right in the, mosh pit. And I said, we went to Alexandra Palace in London. And I said, let's go together, I'll get tickets. And it was great because we went to see everybody afterwards. And Yanis is naughty because he's always trying to sneak a few beers to Sal, and Sal was 15, and it's all that's all good stuff. But anyway, I thought, well, we'll go and see the support bands, and they had 2 support bands. So we started like 3 or 4 rows from the back because the hall's big and it's quite empty, and it's like, this is cool. And then the second band comes on, and it's just like starts to fill up, and it's just like, and then Sal goes to me, he says, listen, I'm going to be in moshing. This thing's gonna go off. And I go, okay. And holy moly, I found myself in the middle of the mosh pit, and I just had to get out. It was, it's primal in there. It was
That is
really,
funny.
it was really primal. It was great. I mean, I loved it. But yeah, you're right. And it's funny as a musician, there's so much of the time. I mean, you'll see this with a lot of acts. There's that compulsion that the front person or the band to get in the audience, you know, because to feel that energy is so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. And, you know, if I didn't have, you know, I can see if I was a singer without a guitar, I'd be right in there.
Right.
But because I've got a guitar and I've got foot pedals and things I got to hit, I'm tied to this spot really.
Sure.
But it is this kind of, it's an amazing, I always think gigs are an amazing, I probably said this before, maybe this is the final thing I'll say is about it, but I always think, you know, people come up and they might say if it's been a good night, you know, somebody signing and meeting people out by the gates and talking to good folk, and they go like, oh, that was an amazing gig, and you guys are amazing. I'm always like, no, thank you, but you were amazing as well. And it's a real belief that everybody's energy, you come to that place and you all contribute. All we do as a band is we strike a match, you know, and that gets the energy going. The energy is already there. And like I had some just extraordinary nights where the energy's been so powerful. I remember a night in Phoenix on the King of Limbs tour it was in 2012. It was the last show of the first leg, so it was kind of Marchish time, I think. And that encore, like something, the energy was so powerful in this arena. I looked out and I felt like the walls were breathing. Honestly, it was like this sort of weird optical illusion, but it was obviously in my head. But the funny thing was, I said this to Tom afterwards. I said, oh man, I like the venue started shape shifting, and he went, I had exactly the same too.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing. That's why I always tell my kids, I'm a pretty straight-laced kind of person. I'm a rule follower, and so
yeah,
that's all to say that I really haven't done any drugs really at all, except like alcohol and stuff. But
yeah,
that's why I tell my kids, and they're both into music, especially the oldest. I'm like, you don't even need drugs when you have that kind of
yeah,
energy.
yeah,
I mean, it's really like the highest of highs that I can ever imagine.
yeah.
I suppose ecstasy or I
Well,
don't know, LSD will give you that, but I don't.
well, I think what it's interesting. I think you hit upon something really interesting thing. I think the things like, you know, and I've done ecstasy and LSD and all those things, and I think what I realize, and I don't do them a lot. The thing that I realize about all those things, the thing that makes them powerful is there's almost like a divine aspect. It's a spiritual component.
It is.
It's a real spiritual, it's a joy. It's like, and like you said, it's that thing that you get from, it's like this pure joy, isn't it? And the thing is, we can all access that without doing drugs, and music helps you get to that
Right.
point, can do that. All sorts of stuff can. I think yoga can, meditation.
Sure.
But yeah, you're right. It's such a powerful thing, and us as musicians, when we go out and play live, that's what we're chasing. And it's funny because the other thing is you can't force it. You know, I remember like in Radiohead, it was, you know, gigs were like you live and die by a good gig
Right.
or a bad gig. And the bad gig, there's your dog.
There's my dog.
Yeah.
He's been really good, but
He's
there's another
great.
dog right over there.
Yeah. What used to happen is that we come off stage and it was a bad gig and everybody was miserable. I always remember this about OK Computer time, when the gigs and our managers would come in and go, good show, chaps, well done, and be like, And what you realize is that all you have to do each night is you have to surrender and you have to do the best that you can do. And sometimes the stars are in alignment, and you're thankful of that. And
Right.
it's like in life, you don't chase that experience. If it happens, you feel supremely lucky, and if it doesn't happen, you've done your best and everybody's done your best, and it might be that you're playing in London on a Monday night and it's just not, Monday night's not a vibey night, you know. And that's,
Do you feel like you have to reach that high as a band, or have you ever said like, "Man, Tom, that was amazing," and Tom was like, it was all right, or like Johnny was like, "I don't know, I wasn't feeling it," or does it happen as a whole for the five of you, six of you?
I think it's funny. I I have I have a very sort of strong, I have a particularly strong bond with Tom in terms of, I've always known, I think we feel things in the same way. Not everybody feels things in the same way.
Right.
And what I've noticed is that I'm not thinking, but I'm feeling, oh my God, this is amazing. Like we'll go off, you'll go off stage, after the main set, and I'll look at him, he'll look at me like, what the fuck? Wow. And conversely, if it's not happening, you go off and you go like, that was tough. Okay. All right. But the thing is, what's great now is as you get older, is you don't beat yourself up about it, because, you put the same amount of attention into every gig. So a really important thing for a gig is like, it's respecting it. A gig is like, a concert is like service, and it is literally service. It's like service. It's serving the occasion. It's serving you, the audience. It's service. It's not a selfish thing. It's a service thing. So in order to give your best, you have to, like, we all, everybody's got their routine for the day to get themselves, everything is prepared that day. So by the time you hit the stage at 8:45 or 8 o'clock, however big or small, you are primed and you're at your utmost to be ready. And so that's all you have to do. And it's like anything in life, I think that if you do something that you want to honor and do the best you can, it's about the preparation. It's about the moment that you get there to do it. You've done everything that you can to be present and to do the best you can. So, for me, it will be, my pre-gig routine is it starts probably 3 hours before a show. It's after the sound check. So I usually after the sound check have a nap, like 45, 50 minutes, put my hoodie up, and get underneath and just go to sleep. And then, I'll wake up, set my alarm, and then it will be like, do some exercises, get the body going, maybe then there's the, look at the set list, got the guitar in hand, go through the songs, just anything that because there are a lot of songs. And then there's warming up of the voice, and you time it so that by the time, you're putting on putting on a shirt or whatever, your clothes, you got your pack on, it's like 15 minutes before, so that's when you convene, and it's everything is about getting into that, and so if you do that and it doesn't happen, of course it's disappointing, but also what you have to remember also that you might not think it's scaled the heights of what you think you can do, but also other people people can go, wow, that was amazing. And also here's the other thing, is that you can think, oh, we didn't have a really great time, and it can be absolute, the first Glastonbury headliner we did, 1997, we notoriously had a terrible time, and Tom particularly did. And we thought we'd fucked it. We thought we'd blown it. We thought this is our big chance. Okay, computer, this is like, it's like the World Cup final. This is when I met David Beckham. David
Right.
Beckham was backstage after the last Glastonbury. I came off stage, and Sal, my son, was like, Daddy, David Beckham's over there. And I'm a big Man United fan. And he came over. He was really sweet. He said, Ed, how are you? David Beckham said this. He's like, and I said to him, I said, I'm going to be a fanboy because I'm a Man United player, and for me, you're always number 7, David Beckham, right wing. But I just say that what we did out there tonight, that is like our Champions League final. That's our World Cup final. It's that same, and it is. And we did that in 97. and we thought we'd blown it. And it wasn't until afterwards people were coming up, like, you know, I remember some of the you know, the family and friends who were there. They came up and like, holy moly! And we thought, you know, we thought, oh fuck it, we've blown it. And they were like, that was amazing. So you'd never really know, but you get better at gauging it as you get older. So
it's amazing. This reminds me, I know this Canadian artist, he's one of my favorites, and actually he's a huge fan of you and the band, but we were talking a little bit about not his last album, but the one before that. He really thought it was his opus, his most magnificent piece of work, that this was, and he even said, I thought this was going to go ahead and like, we were going to be touring with Radiohead. It was going to launch us into a new stratosphere. Yeah. And he was playing a festival, and Father John Misty was on right before him. And Father John Misty, I'm sure you're aware of him, but he just like, he said he wiped the floor with like everybody in sight. He just put on like the show of his lives. And so then he got really nervous and didn't perform his best. And he really like came off that stage crying, feeling like, I thought this was going to really work out. And it turned out that his third album didn't get as much press as his second album, even though he thought it was a finer piece of work. But he said at the end of the day, he's like, I know what I put into it. I know what it's worth. Yeah. I know that it speaks to a greater sense of what I was trying to create. And, you know, people got it, and some people got it and some people didn't. And that's all I can hope for.
Who was that artist?
His name is Dan Mangan. He's Dan from Mangan, Vancouver. I know. Yeah. So you know, oh my God.
Oh wow. There's a story, but
he absolutely loves you. We bonded,
he knows my
like,
dad.
2 years ago.
He knows
really?
my dad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad knows him.
So here's the deal. I don't know if this is going to be too forward, and if maybe I feel like I now that we've talked for over half an hour. Yeah. If Dan Mangan would ever open for Radiohead, could I be the concert photographer for at least one of your shows?
Of course. I think you should come. Well, next time we tour in America, Sylvia, I think you know, get in contact and we'll get you to come to show and give you photo pass and do all of that.
Thank you. That would be a dream come true. I did get a chance to photograph Tom a couple of times for his last tour. Great. And I've been to a billion shows and in the front row, but never with a camera.
Someone's just said, "Be forward, girl." You said it. Yeah.
I did. So see, it's
very
only taken
respectful.
Me. This wouldn't have been. This is not 15-year-old me. I would have just gone back to my desk with my little pencil, and I would never have asked. But why not? What's the worst? I mean, you would probably
absolutely. And I'm not going to say no, am I? I'm not going to say no. No, exactly.
Because you're the nicest person. No, but I really, I can't believe I've had a chance to chat with you. I mean, it's absolutely, especially since I dreamt that you were performing in Rio. You were giving a concert in Rio last night.
Well, thank you. You know, it's been such a joy. We've talked. It's been funny because like. I feel like we've gone to some new territory that I haven't spoken about, like first crushes, football. We've covered so much territory.
Oh, actually, one thing that when you were talking about having family in Texas, I know that is Tex-Mex cuisine. But if you want a really proper Mexican meal, I can promise half of it, and my dad can do the other half.
Oh my God, you know, but here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. When I'm in America, all I crave is authentic Mexican cuisine. Like I remember, like when I went to stay, when I was in Orange County, like it was for the Fender thing, because Fender are based in Orange County, and they put me up in this very kindly, in this kind of Best Western hotel that's in the middle of nowhere, and like there's like a Taco Bell, and there's like it's fast food hell, and I would rather starve than eat that crap. And I said to the concierge, she was lovely, because everybody's Hispanic who works in that town. And I said, listen, can you tell me? I just want to eat where you eat. I want a mama and papa authentic. And he was funny because he said, like, that's so weird. Like nobody these days wants to change. They all want that. And I went, yeah. And I've got this thing as well. I've got this thing about, I love Mexico. I don't know if you can tell, but I love Mexico. I love mariachi music. In Wales, I used to listen at Christmas on the internet radio, just mariachi music. I have a really strong connection. My grandmother's first language was Spanish because she was born in Laredo on the border. And so I have this thing about Mexico, and we did this tour in '94, and we stayed in, we went to Ojo de Agua in Guanajuato, and it was just like, it's such a magic, I think the country is so magic, and I've got not so many, but the Mexican friends I have are just incredible, just so warm, and it's I just think that the food and the culture and the family, and of course it's the problems are well documented, but I would love to come and if anybody's got an accordion, and maybe a little dancing, and
the accordion is, I think, typically from northern Mexico, and
yes,
my father's family is from southwest, and my mom's family is from the capital.
So are your father's family from near Oaxaca or somewhere?
No, he's from why am I blanking out? Acapulco's in it. Guerrero.
Okay.
Yeah, and my mom is from Mexico City. Yeah.
Oh, your mum's from Mexico. Amazing city. And the north is, that's right, it's your accordion's like Flaco Jimenez and all that. That's
exactly
amazing. But I mean, I don't understand the nuances or the regional differences in music. But it's funny, in lockdown, my last thing, I know I can go on a bit, but I've really enjoyed this so much. There was, and it's not just about Mexico, but it's about South America. Ewan McGregor.
Yes, of course.
The actor, him and Charlie Borman did on Apple TV. They did this series where they go from the tip of. Have you seen it?
Yeah, when he's traveling. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they start down at Tierra del Fuego in Chile, and they work up to LA, and they ride on these electric motorbikes. But they go through Central America and South America, and I'm not going to generalize, but there's something in the land, there's something in the people, and I know that it's a very the history is very bloody, right? The Europeans coming over and the settlers, but there's something magic in the land. And during lockdown in the winter, we watched it in December, and to see this beautiful that sunshine, that warmth, it was just it really helped.
Yeah. So you found your girl, you found your concert photographer, your Mexican food cook.
Yeah,
I'm
great.
Excellent at that.
All right, Sylvia.
And I'm sure we can find other things.
Chimichangas.
No, but I'm going to go make, right now I have 3 gorgeous avocados in my fridge.
All
and
right.
I'm going to make a delicious pico de gallo.
All right. So lovely to speak with you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Ed. I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Yeah, big
Thank
love
you.
to you and your family and your little dog.
Thank you so much.
All
And
right.
to you, Ed. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you. You too. All right.
Thanks.
Bye. Oh, no, cancel that. I was going to do that. Sorry. I was going to do. All right, everybody. How do I do that? Okay. All right. I'm going to thank you, everybody. See you next week. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you, Sylvia. All right, guys. Lots of love. See you soon. Take care. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others.